working. Well, I think what it is technology is just too. It's gotten too much. Nothing seems to work. I don't even know if it's working. I don't know if anybody can hear me. I don't know if it's working. So, if anybody is watching, if you can let me know. Okay, is everybody on board? Can everybody hear me? Do we have good sound? Do you hear me now? Because I really believe these iPhones, I think all this technology is worse. I think the iPhone has so many glitches that I don't even think they know how many glitches they have. Really, I honestly don't think they're very good phones. And maybe the Androids aren't any good either, but I'm telling you right now, and Ryan can say this or that, but honestly, when I had my Android, I did not complain half as much as I have with this one. I mean, it's just fact, okay? So now I can't talk a lot with you guys on the stream, so I might be able to once in a while look at the screen. I'm going to try to keep my glasses on and look underneath the lens if somebody has a comment. So today's so this is going to be a 2-hour till about 1 o'clock, or about 12:30 until I have to get gas again. I am headed toward Las Vegas. I did this. I can't believe it was last. It was a year ago. I can't believe it was back in same time last year, September of last year. Honestly, I can't believe it, because I flew to Vegas back in March twice. I did the ASD show, and then I flew back the toy show. And so I told people that, how did we get here? How did I get here to where I'm at right now in what I'm doing after 63 years of life? And so I guess while I'm driving, I'm going to just tell the story of, how did he become this slot car guy? A lot of times people like to know, I was born in 1959 in Gary, Indiana. And all I remember is that I was a very acquisitive boy ever since I can remember. One thing I do remember, and I think it was either Ottawa Hills or it was Northfield. I don't know if I was in kindergarten, first grade, or second grade, but I wanted to draw the plans of the school. And I remember the teacher taking me around the school outside so I can see what the dimensions of the school were. That's one of the first things I realized, that I was kind of different. You know, not most kids wanted to do a blueprint of a school. Okay? And I was always in special classes in elementary because of my dyslexia, which, you know, some people say, well, that's a crutch. You know, why do people always, I won't say it's a real crutch, but it's a real issue. If you don't have dyslexia, you have no idea what it is. You can just read, a story and everything is fine. But dyslexia, I don't know how they diagnostic. I can't even say the word. How they can tell you dyslexia is basically you're flipping words. You're flipping a 6 for an 8. And I catch myself doing it all the time. Even today, and when I read a book, I literally have to put 2 pages above each line that I'm reading. And so I had dyslexia really bad. So I went to these special classes. But I was always inventing things. And like, for example, when I was in Ottawa Hills, I wanted to design a game like Monopoly called Bridget. It was going to be called Bridget. And it was basically a game about bridges, building bridges. Now, you know, I was a kid. I must have been in first grade. And I wanted to design a game called Bridget. That was the name of the game, Bridget. Because I was fascinated with bridges. And that was another thing that I realized, Brian, you're a little different, okay? And I always stuck out in all the classes because, number one, I always did impersonations like Reagan and John Wayne and, you know, Ronald Reagan. Will, how are you doing? And I think I was pretty good. Tim says I'm not any good, which I disagree because I won many talent shows in high school. I knew that I was in sales, or I knew that I liked sales, or I was always when we lived in Ottawa Hills, my parents got divorced and my dad moved to Iowa, and my mom had to get rid of the house, and she moved into this apartment complex. And I stayed with my dad the first year in Iowa, and then we came back to live with my mom. And I don't know if my dad didn't want us. I frankly didn't like living with my stepmother, with Denise. And so I came back, and we lived in apartments, which I've told you guys about, living next to Franklin Park Mall. So, you know, as a 10-year-old or 11-year-old, especially an 11-year-old like me, literally living next to the building of the largest mall in Northwest Ohio called the Franklin Park Mall. I mean, that's a kid's dream. I think I moved there in 71 or 70 when it was starting to be built. But I literally lived next to the construction of the largest mall in Northwest Ohio at the time. And they had this huge cathedral square dome, not a dome, but it was like rectangle, and it would and they tore it down actually, which I don't know. I think it was because maintenance, but they tore that thing off, and it's not there anymore. Now they did expand Franklin Park Mall considerably, and so when the mall was finished, I literally lived in the mall, and how I first got my experience with slot cars was at the hobby center that was located in the Franklin Park Mall. It was located, and that's where I had every bit of my money, and we didn't have a lot of money, so I literally I was very creative of making money, and so I had to learn how to make my own money. So I don't know how many of you, like I'm 63, so my mom, because my dad made a lot of home, and so he had a projector, and he had cameras and all that. Well, so what I would do is JCPenney's had this big photo department. This is when department stores like JCPenney's carried everything. They had a photo department, they had a toy aisle, they had food, they had a hardware selection, they had everything. And then some braino at JCPenney's decided to get rid of all that, and then they wonder why they went out of business. Well, they didn't go out of business, but they were sold to a investment corporation, which is the worst thing you can do, is to be bought by an investment corporation. So I would go to the JCPenney's in the photo department, and on this shelving rack they had these little 8mm movie shorts of famous movies, okay? And they were only 2 minutes. I mean, they were little reels like this big, and you'd put them on my 8mm or my Super 8 projector, and I could show them. And they were all black, they were color, but they were no sound. It was just, and they were basically clips from a movie, almost like a trailer. But it was the whole movie. Almost the whole movie. Condensed into 2 minutes. And I would be able to buy these things for like $6-7. And I remember 2 of them, which were the most popular, that I made the most money on. Okay, and that was Frankenstein and the werewolf, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. Because in certain scenes, I could on my projector I could put it in reverse, and so if the building, like for example in Frankenstein and the Wolfman, the castle gets destroyed by this water at the end, and so I could reverse that and see the signs and put them all, because I lived into, there were, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 4 buildings, a part of the Imperial Trace Apartments. There were movie, whatever. I think it was 315 was our apartment. Popcorn and orange. Please say yes if I'm on. Please can you hear me again? Can anybody type in yes? We can hear you, Brian. Please. Very easy. Just type in YES. All right, good. All right, so I would put these signs in all the rooms, and the kids would come and watch these movies, and I think it was 25 cents. It might have been a dime, but back in 71, a dime would buy you a hamburger at McDonald's, okay? Before skyrocket in the 70s. But I'm pretty sure a McDonald's hamburger was either 15 cents or a dime. Maybe a fries were a dime and the drinks were a nickel. So that's how I made my money. A lot of my money is do these movies in my bedroom, and kids. Oh, I might have made $1, maybe $2 every time I did it. And then I would invest. Once I had enough money, I would invest in another movie and have it do another movie. Because the only kind of television, most people in these apartments didn't own televisions, okay, number one. And if they had televisions back in 70, a lot were black and white. We did not own a television. I did not own a color television until I had to fix one that was down in the basement of the apartment complex. Because people would put their old tube televisions in the bottom of the apartments thinking they were bad. And I've told you how I would go to Lane's Drug and test all the tubes for the vertical, because a bad tube would make the vertical it would constantly kind of roll, or then the horizontal would kind of wave that way. And by buying new tubes, you could fix a bad television, which I did all the time. My mom, I remember I think I told you guys this. Mom came in one day crying and said, "Oh, I wish I could afford to buy a TV." And I said, "What are you worried about, Mom? I fixed this television. It didn't work, and I fixed it." And that's where I'd watch my creature double feature and my sci-fi movies on Channel 50 and Channel 7 on TV. On my television, because I had my own television, even though it was black and white. But a lot of people did not own televisions. They were very expensive back in the 60s and 70s. And if you could afford one, you couldn't afford a color one. I didn't have my first color TV until my sister helped me buy one. Dora helped me buy one in 1977. I bought a 19-inch color television at the J.C. Penney's in Toledo. It was in Franklin Park. That's where I got it. And so that's where I first knew that I loved to do things, be creative. And then in the summertime, I used to do these carnivals. Just silly carnivals. And kids would, pennies and dimes and nickels. Oh my goodness, I must have made $10, $20 doing that. Then there was one thing that really, I really got a lot of money. And I can't remember back in 7 fund my slot cars, because I was making so much money mowing this lady's yard that I would go to the hobby center and buy these Thunder Jets, and I would buy I would get a set. I can't remember how I got the set. That's one thing that I don't remember, is where did I get the set? Because that's where I would take the race set, I put it on a piece of plywood, and I would put my girder and panel buildings on it, and then set the steering wheel and let the cars drive by themselves as I was building cities and everything. So then I told you the story about where I became a fix-it man. I made words saying Brian Young Fix-It Man, and I would put them under all the doors in the apartment complex. I would put them in neighbors' yards. And one day my mom got this phone call, and she said, "Now Brian, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I just made up little cards to be a fix-it man." I was 12 years old, guys. I had no idea what I was doing, but I thought I knew what I was doing. That's when I first knew that I knew I could do anything. Let me put it this way. You're going to hear all these things about my life. I was always put into for some reason, I always was picked or chosen to do something, And I don't know if I want to call it lucky, but I really want to say that I've been blessed my entire life. So all through high school, I had pretty much a uneventful high school. I was kind of a nerd in the sense that I was always kind of like the class clown. I wasn't very good on my grades. I did like to do science and there are certain things I enjoyed to do. I'm amazed that I even passed, graduated, honestly, but I did. But then I decided to go into the Navy. And here's when I finally realized that I've really been kind of blessed. And that I've really been, a lot of things, okay, so in life, a lot of things kind of slide your way. And you just say, well, why, you're lucky. I don't want to say I was lucky. I just think I was blessed, honestly. So when you go into the military, you have to go to what you call boot camp. And boot camp, I think it was 8 weeks or 12 weeks of training. And during that, you have to do what they call mess cooking, which is basically the worst job you could possibly imagine. You have to mess cook these giant mess halls, which are basically kitchens, where you have to clean off the tables, clean the dishes, prepare the food for thousands of recruits. Well, when our troop, okay, had to do mess cooking, the first class came to the group and said, "Listen, we need a company flag made. Everybody has to have their own company flag. We need some volunteers that want to paint this flag." And I rose my hand right up because I was going to draw a submarine, which I did. I drew the submarine and the Cobra, because I think we were called Cobra. And I could show you that flag later on. I got a picture of it, actually, on my Navy picture of me graduation and the flag. So basically there were 4 of us or 3 of us that basically did not have to do mess cooking, because that whole week we were painting the flag. So that's the first time I was blessed. So the second time, it really wasn't a blessing, but I realized that I was kind of a different type of person when I was stationed in Meridian, Mississippi. I don't know if this is important or you guys even care about what I'm talking about. This is probably the boringest thing you've ever heard. The only reason I'm doing this live stream is because it takes I'm having to drive. It's occupying time. So if you don't like what I'm saying, I totally understand it. You can click off if you want. I'm just telling you, how did we get here? How did I open up ProTinkerToys.com? How did this all happen? And I'm getting to it. So one thing that I never like to fail exams, or I never like to fail inspections when I was in the Navy. I hated to fail an inspection. And so we lived in this 2-room bunkhouse at the Meridian A school, because I went to A school to be a storekeeper. Okay, and they had really nice bunks, because there were you had 2 or maybe there were 4 guys in a room. You had your own bathroom, then you had a common lounge with a television that you could just kind of relax in. It was really a nice place. They really did a good job on this thing. And well, they would do monthly inspections, and the first time they came in, he inspected it, and they shined the flashlight on the floor, and I don't but he shined his flashlight on the floor, and it showed all this dust, and he failed us. Dust. And I said to myself, self is wrapped around a mop, or not a, and I mopped the entire floor an hour before he came. Every corner. So that, and I had a flashlight too, and if he shined it, and I shined the flashlight right on the bottom of the floor, so it kind of skimmed the bottom of the floor, and there wasn't a single dust particle, because I just dusted it with lemon pledge on a towel. And he came in, and I said, okay, go ahead. You find a piece of dust on the floor, I dare you. And he shined it, he goes, that's pretty, yeah, I know, I clean it really good, sir, or petty officer. Well, so he couldn't find anything wrong with my room, and he goes into the bathroom and finds one hair in the sink, or in the drain of the shower. One hair. He said, now you want to keep these clean, okay? I said, yes, petty officer. So, knew about attention to detail. So after I finished A school, I was sent to go to my first ship, and that was called the USS Puget Sound. And you're probably saying, what is the USS Puget Sound? Well, the Puget Sound was a destroyer tender. And you're probably saying, what's a destroyer tender? It's basically a giant machine shop, workshop, repair facility to fix a destroyer. So if anything went wrong with a destroyer, that's what that tender would do. It could fix it. I mean, fix it. They had machine shops. They had steel. I mean, the machine shops in this thing were immense. The amount of metal that was stored on board that ship was amazing. So you have orientations on the first month of going to a boat. Ship, boat. I can't. Sometimes I get it mixed up. And we're all in this one room, and there was a black guy named Fisher, a first class named Fisher. And I came in there, and he saw that I was in A school, so I was a seaman at that time. Most of them were seaman recruit, but because I went to A school, I was automatically an E2, okay? Which puts you ahead a little bit. Most of your seaman recruits are grunts, and they have to spend a whole month in the mess hall. Well, guess what happened? Something that I don't know. I think it's divine. God was behind it. He was blessing me. I don't know what. But I'm telling you, 1 month messing in the Puget Sound was absolute crap job. I mean, you got off around 8 o'clock every night. You stunk like food. You smelled like food. Well, during the orientation, Fisher was a first class. Well, for first class cook, but they would still have to go to mess, but they would mess in the chief's quarter, chief's mess. Now, chief's mess, you only had about 30 to 40 chiefs on board a ship. And going to do mess cooking in a chief's mess was like going to a Ruth Chris steakhouse. Anyways, he come up to me and he goes, Seaman Young? I said, yes, Officer Fisher. He goes, how would you like to mess cook with me? I go, yeah, that's fine. I don't think, and now that I'm 63 years later, I understand why he wanted me to do it. Because I was basically his gopher. Because the chiefs would collect their own money and they would buy their own food, okay? Because they didn't want to have the same stuff that the crew would eat. So they would get a little bit better food in the chief's mess than you would get in the enlisted mess. And so I did that for a month, and I got to eat my own breakfast. I could come in and make my own breakfast. I didn't have to worry about 100 guys having to get a cold food. I could make it all hot right on the grill, and everything that I ate. And I got off, normally every night I got off around 5 o'clock. So it really, it was like a skate job. I'm like, good grief. So then, the next thing that happened on the Puget Sound, so there's one thing that I want to say to people that, hey guys, how you doing? That if somebody ever tells you, hey, we're not going to be doing this, always remember, if they say no, they mean yes. So every morning we would stand in muster. And muster means you stand in and then they say, Penaf's Young, aye. Everybody would say aye, 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 aye. And the captain came on the speaker system and said, okay, there's a rumor that we're going to be the flagship in Gaeta, Italy. And I want everybody to know that that is not true. And Fisher, Petty Officer Fisher looked at me and goes, we're going to be a flagship in Italy. I said, no, the captain just said, he said, no, we're not. He goes, listen, when they say no, we're not, that means that yes, we are. And so a month later, the captain gets on the speaker and goes, I wanted to let everybody know that there is a slight chance that we might become a flagship in Gaeta, Italy, but it's a very small, remote chance. And Fisher looked at me and he goes, we're going to be a flagship. So, and then another week later, maybe, the captain gets on the speaker system and goes, congratulations, our crew. The USS Puget Sound is now the flagship, and we are going to go into overhaul. So we went into we had to go into we had to go into the yard basically for a refit to get us all cleaned up and everything fixed, because we had to go overseas. All right, we'd have to go into the ocean. We'd have to go all the way across the ocean, the Atlantic, and go to Italy. So the ship all had to be cleaned and prepped to make it a flagship. A lot of changes. They had to change a lot of the officers' quarters, because they were going to have to. You're going to have an admiral. You'd have a fleet admiral. All these different officers were going to be on board. So we had to. So most of the crew would have to be on board doing all the work of cleaning the ship. Now, I only had to do it very little time, and I was stationed on the because Fisher, he knew that I was a hard worker. He knew that if he gave me a job, that I would normally just do it nonstop. And there was another guy, another first class that I was with, also called you won't believe what a guy had on his truck. Let's go Brandon, but it didn't say Brandon. So I got to do that for about a year. That was all of 1979, because in 1980 I got on board submarine, and the same thing happened on my submarine career. Okay, it just one thing after another. I lucked out, and A school, submarine school was the same thing, and then I got on board a submarine, and the chief on board, most of the crew would have to go on a watch, where you would do 8 hours of watch, and then you would go to bed. He came up to me and goes, petty officer, because I was second class. I was a second class petty officer, and he came up to me and goes, Petty Officer Young. I go, yes, Chief. He goes, if I could get you off the watch, would you inventory everything on the submarine? I go, yeah, because I had 3 months to inventory everything. And that's all I did for 3 months was inventory everything on board the submarine. Because when we got back, then they would do an inspection. They would inventory everything to see if all the parts on the ship are correct. And so my submarine tour went well, and then I decided I got married, and we had our first child, Kimberly, which then we decided to move back home, and I opened up Young's Newsstand. That was my first retail store that I ever had. I opened that in December of 1987. And in 1988 was probably my most trying year. I didn't know if I was going to even be in business. And then I finally, my newspaper guy that was in charge of all the newspapers, not newspapers, the magazines, because I was a newsstand. I had magazines. He came up to me one day, and I was really depressed because I wasn't making any money. Nobody was coming into my store. He said, Brian, you cannot make money only on magazines. You have to get other items. And that's when I started selling hot dogs. I started selling comic books, games, Magic the Gathering. That was 94. Candy. I got in a couple video games. Got in whatever it could to sell. Okay? Whatever I could sell, I would buy it. And my brother, one day, at first in 1988, I was kind of shy on buying things. And my brother-in-law, Alan, came up to me one day. He says, now, Brian, you know that you can't sell from an empty cart. And after that, I started buying anything I could get my hands on. And I think I've told you this story that the one item that I bought, that I knew that at that moment that I could make a lot of money. So back in, I don't know if it was 1990 or 1989, but there was a comic book. It was a graphic novel. Now remember this because I might have a trivia question on this. There was a graphic novel that came out by DC. Now, I've already told this, so somebody might have already known this answer. But it was called The Killing Joke. And it retailed for $5. This was in 1988, $5. And they cost me $2.50, and I bought like 20 of them because I was starting to buy comics, and I was buying them through Capital City, and they were helping me. Here's what you should get. You should get some of these graphic novels, and so I did. I bought some of these graphic novels, and I couldn't believe how fast I was selling these, and I go, holy cow. You mean to tell me I've sold out of all these graphic novels, The Killing Joke? And so I knew that this was a gold mine. And so what I did is I just started buying more comic books. And then fast forward to, I don't know if it was 1990 or 1992. This was the comic that I made a ton of money on. And one thing nice about Young's Newsstand, and that one thing I was kind of ahead of the curve, is that I would have the television on. And I would have it on, I can't believe I was watching it, but Good Morning America. Because this was before Fox News, Fox Business. And I had it on Good Morning America in the morning. And every morning I would find out new items that were coming out, or hot new items. And so I had ordered 100 copies of The Death of Superman. Now, they came it out with two copies initially. They came it out with a regular newsprint. It was a standard comic book. And then they came out with a deluxe one with a deluxe cover. And that was $5. And then the newsprint was $2.50, or maybe it was $1.50. And so I'm sitting there, and this was the week that it came out. And I'm watching Good Morning America, and they go, and they were talking about in the USA, and also because I have a newspaper, I was selling newspapers, I got information that day. I was before the internet. I was reading information so I could act on it immediately before all the other comic book stores. And immediately when I saw that the Death of Superman comic book was coming out, or that it's going to get up, I said, I've got to. And so I called Capital City that minute, and I called, listen, do you have 500 copies of it? He goes, yeah, we do. I said, I want them. And I don't know if it was 500, but I'm pretty sure I ordered 100 more. And I had people coming in all week because of that article that was in the USA Today, and also because it was on Good Morning America. Hey, do you have the Death of Superman comic book? I go, yeah, right here. You Death of Superman comic book? Yeah, right here. Death of Superman comic? Yeah, right here. Now, I want you to be very clear. An item like that is a 1 in a million. Okay? 1 in a million. That means that you're never going to repeat that once in a million, or once in a lifetime. I mean, I'm in downtown Dayton. I'm coming on 70. And so he wanted to get into con because he found out that they were going to do the Return of Superman, and they were going to do 4 or 5 covers in different colors. Okay, they're going to do a blue cover, a green, yellow, and he came into me. He goes, "Can you order 1,500 each of these?" And I go, I will, but I really would not recommend you do that, because this is not going to be popular. Okay, I mean, if you want to do 100 maybe, but not 1,500. Well, he got all upset with me. And what did he do? Like most greedy people, he opened up an account with my competitor, Diamond, at the time. And he ordered them himself, because he started selling comic book and becoming a competitor of mine. Well, a year later, after he got the bill for those 1,500 copies, he didn't have any money. And he came in and said, would you like to buy me out? And at the time I was kind of upset, and I said no. And that's the first time I realized that I should have bought him out, because then another competitor bought him out, and he was a sore in my side, and I should have bought him out. So in late 1996, I was getting a little bit, I don't know, discontented, and I kind of wanted to sell out my store. No, 94 I was, okay, no, I'm sorry, let me go back. So in 1994, something really freaky happened. So as a kid, you know my story about girder and panel. Kenner made this girder and panel system, which I thought was the greatest toy as a kid, because I could build things, and I loved to build buildings and all that kind of stuff. And so I had started collecting a bunch of girder and panel, and I was very knowledgeable of it, and I thought, I had some great ideas of how they could make different pieces, and they could really expand this, and blah, blah, blah. So anyways, I was going into Meijer, and I walked into Meijer, and I saw this girder and panel box. I said, oh my goodness, Irwin Toy is making girder and panels. Oh, I have to work for this company. That's all I thought about was I have to work for this company. So I called them. This is how my mind thinks. So you guys wonder, well, how does Brian do all this? Why does he think like this? This is how I think. There's no other way to say it. I think outside the box. I've always thought outside the box. I've always thought of things. People say you can't do that. No, you can't. Yes, you can. I've always been a person of, if you tell me no, I can't, well, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I've done it all my life. Brian, you can't do that. Well, all right, fine. And I did. And so I called up Irwin Toy and said, hi, my name is Brian Young, and I know a lot about girder and panels, and I'd like to come up and meet the company and explain some of my ideas that I have about girder and panels and blah, blah, blah. And Daniel was born. That was 1994. That's when Daniel was born. He was a baby. And so Kathy and I drove up to Irwin Toy. And I had this grand idea of getting a job with Irwin Toy. This was in 94. Oh man, I'm going to get a job. So I go in there, I meet the buyer that does girder and panels, and I kind of explained my ideas of different things, and it didn't go over very well. Anyways, I was introduced to Grant Irwin, which was the grandson of the owner of the company, Grant Irwin. And I was showing him, he said, well, here, let me show you the showroom. So he's showing me the showroom, and all of a sudden they had this, in the back of the showroom, they had this giant Scalextric race setup. Scalextric. Because in the 90s, I think 91 or 94, they were the sole distributor of Scalextric in the United States and Canada. They had it all, okay? Just so you know. They manufactured it, so they got all the raw materials from China, and it was made in Canada. So the sets were put together in the factory in Canada, and then it was distributed. And I go, oh my goodness, you do all this? Which I knew I'd have to pay for it, but I didn't want to stick Irwin Toy for all that money. And so a guy came in to my store and said, hey, how would you like to open a store up for a guy? A guy wants to open up a hobby store in Finley. A collectible. It's called Rarities, Gifts, and Collectibles. And he said, how would you like to do that? And we would pay, I can't remember what they were going to pay me. It wasn't enough. I was going to get 10% of sales, which they never did. He was a crook, basically. And so we opened up Rarities in Finley, downtown Finley. And a lot of it was sports memorabilia. He was into sports memorabilia. He had a ton of it. And he bought this. This is when I told you this story. This is when he bought this museum out in Arizona, a rock museum. And he said, Brian, I brought this rock museum and you should be getting it here soon. And so I get this rock museum. I said, just put it on the shelves and see what you can get for it. And so I get this, hold on a second. I get this inventory and I'm unpacking it, and all of a sudden I see this petrified dinosaur dung. That's what it labeled. And it looked like a piece of crap. and it said petrified dinosaur dung. I said, no way. And so I called him. I said, Rick, his name was Rick Howard. Nice guy, but kind of a shady kind of guy. I wouldn't trust him with anything. That's just my opinion. What he did to me, I just wouldn't trust him. I said, what should I sell this? Whatever you want. And I just bought this really, so whatever you can get something for it. So I put $200 on this pile of crap. Guy came in one day. He was looking at all the rocks and everything, and he came up to this and goes, wow, what's that? I said, now that's, and so I'm laying it on. I go, that's official. That is authentic dinosaur dung from Arizona. He goes, you're kidding. No, we just got in this. We bought this whole museum of rocks and stalactites and stalagmites. We bought all this stuff. And I was going through and I found this dinosaur dung. And he goes, well, how much is that? He says, well, I go, I put a price on what I thought we could sell it for. Now, I've been told that, dinosaur dung is very rare. And I said, you can have it for $189. And he goes, okay. I said, this would be a great collection. That's when I knew that I could sell crap. And I was 35 at the time, 36. So then Rick Howard came to me and goes, we're not doing very well, but the Findlay Mall wants to know if we wanted to open up a hobby store. I go, well, I got all the connections to open a hobby store. I've been doing I know Irwin Toy, and I know some hobby distributors, and we can store out for you. And that's when I started selling slot cars. I literally, and that's when I knew that Rarities opened. We closed the store downtown. We opened, and between low battery. I might have to shut down. I've got a low battery. Hold on a second. I gotta see if this is gonna work here. And so in 1996, I sold 100 sets at Rarities. And I was ordering 10 sets a week. And Grant Irwin was saying, how are you selling so many sets? I go, it's easy. You promote the product. And so then at the end of 1996, Rick, how do I say this? I did something that I shouldn't have done. Let's put it that way. But it's not something that I thought what he did was kind of sneaky. Hold on a second. He sent somebody in to see if that I would give him something. And I've always been a guy that, you want to help people out. And so he bought a bunch of stuff, and we had a baseball, a bunch of collectibles. We had this, and Rick had a lot of junk and baseball that was really in bad shape, but it was signed, but it was just terrible. And he basically said, hey, I got, I said, and I said yes. Now, the baseball wasn't worth anything. Well, see, Rick didn't want to have to pay me the 10% that he owed me because of the sales. See, we did almost $400,000 in sales, and he was going to have to pay me 10% for my commission because I hit the goal, Well, so in January, he hired this new guy, and he came and said, you're fired. I go, what? He fired me right off the bat. And then the guy, Keith, his name was Keith, he then became the manager to the store. And I'd already opened another one in Bowling Green in 96. I was busy in 96. And then Keith took over, and then so that's when in January and February, and so when I was building houses, I was calling Irwin Toy every morning. Every morning I would go and start building houses. Before I started working, I would call Grant and say, hey, you need anybody yet? You need anybody to sell Scale Electric? Do you need anybody to sell Scale Electric? He goes, nope, not yet. January I called, February I called, and in March I was calling every day. And all of a sudden, let me jump ahead to 1996. So in 1996, I went to the Richter show in Rosemont in Illinois. Huge hobby convention. It was hobby and retail or consumer. So I think it was Thursday and Friday it was retail, and Saturday and Sunday was for consumers. Big show. 40,000 people would come to that thing. It was huge. And that was the first show I had ever done. And I was selling race sets for Rick Howard for rarities at that show, and we would drop ship them to him. Okay? So people would go, I got these race sets, $179, $179. And I sold about 20 of them at the show. And we drop shipped all of them right to the people. And there was a guy there by the name of Charles Zada. And he was a sales rep for Irwin Toy in Ohio and also in New York. And he came up to me at the end of the show. He said, would you like a job being a salesman for us? I go, I thank you very much, Charles, but I really want to work for Irwin Toy. I really want to work for Irwin Toy. And so that's how I kind of connected with Irwin Toy, because I was starting to sell the Scale Electric in 96, 97. Then 97 happened, March of 97. And basically I'm telling you the story is, well, how did Brian get to the point he is right now that he owns a bank, he sells slot car, and he knows so much about slot cars? How did this all happen? And that's what I'm telling you, is the progression to Warham. It's all steps. Everything you do is steps in life, okay? And so I got a call from Grant in March. He goes, Brian. I go, yes. We'd like to hire you. Not officially, but we want to see how well you do. We lost, he told me, we lost the Scalextric license to Alan Smith. Alan Smith was this, he was British. Okay, I'm losing power, guys. I don't think I'm going to have the power to continue. Shoot. I hope I can do this. I got to get power back on. I think that might work. So so Alan Smith stole the license. He convinced Horn in England that Irwin Toy was not selling Scalextric correctly, and that we should be our own distributor, because we were selling it through Horizon, Great Plains, and we were going through distributors. Well, Alan Smith didn't believe in distributors. Most British companies don't believe in distributors. Okay. They believe you sell it directly to the retail. And in America, that was just the opposite. Most items were sold through a distributor. Well, he didn't like that, and so he backtalked to Irwin Toy. Hold on. I hope I'm back on. But you have to sell. We're going to pay you, and this is what they pay me. They're going to pay all my expenses, number one. So my food, my lodging, my gas. Well, back then, gas was 99 cents a gallon. And we're going to pay you $750 a week. This was in 97. I said, I'm hired. I'll do it. He said, you have to sell all this Scalextric stuff that we have. We have so much of it. I said, no problem. So in 97, they gave me a stack, it might have been about this big, of all the hobby stores that were around the country that were buying our stuff. And so I started making, and back then there was no internet per se, there was no World Wide Web, there was no GPS. There was basically a telephone book and a library. And so I would have to go to all these cities, and I would get out the phone books, and I'd start circling all these hobby stores. And I'd make these maps and put all these stores down. Oh man, I was 35 then. I was dedicated, that's for sure. And so I literally visited 2,000 hobby stores in literally a year. I drove, now not so much on the West Coast, but I covered every hobby store in the East Coast, just about, okay? And then I would do shows to cover the West Coast and Vegas. I would do the nurses show, and I would set up a booth there, and I would sell products and move inventory. Well, so I moved, and I'm proud of this because I'm a good salesman. I moved all of that inventory out of Irwin Toy, all of it. Now, they still had a bunch of it left when they went out of business, because that's how REH, Bob Haynes, bought a bunch of it. But most of the inventory I sold, all the race sets, a lot of the cars. They still had a lot of transformers and hand throttles because, you know, they really didn't have a way of getting rid of them. So that's when, then at the end of 1998 or 1997, the end of 97, Grant Irwin came to me and goes, okay, so we're going to hire you. We're going to pay you $35,000 a year. I said, wow, okay, great. And so at the end of 97, then in January of 98, Grant called me and said, hey, Brian, do you know anything about SCX? I go, well, a little bit. Aren't they kind of the Spanish version of SCX, of Scale Electric? He goes, yeah, they want to talk to us. They want us to be their distributor in the United States. I go, really? I go, yeah. Wow. And so January of 98, we flew over to Spain, and met the TechnoToys people, the president at the time, the owner, and all that. And we then brought in, we were selling SCX. Now we had a lot of they had a lot of the old Matchbox inventory that they wanted to get rid of. And so we were also selling the Matchbox inventory and the new cars together. All right. And so that's how I got into really knowing about SCX. And then by that time, 1998, 1999, Hornby, under Alan Smith, Alan Smith was, again, he was great for slot cars, but I don't think he was a very good salesman for slot cars. That's just my opinion. He knows a lot about slot cars because he's been doing it a long time. But I thought what he did for Scale Electric was not a good idea. See, the problem with Scale Electric right now is that there are two companies that are making their profits, and you cannot do that and make money, or the consumers are taken care of. That's the problem with Scale Electric, because Hornby in England wants their cut and Hornby USA wants their cut. Only one company can take a cut for it to be profitable. That's why their cars are $69. That's why their cars are $69. Because Hornby England and Hornby USA all want to have their margins, but they can't. One of them, the Hornby USA, has to be the majority profit, and Hornby, they have to be two separate companies, and it's not. I don't think it's working out. That's my opinion. Now I'm just telling you the facts. And so we then started selling SCX in 1999. So I told Irwin Toy that we needed to do a real big TV advertising, or not TV, but news spread advertising. I can't remember where we were going to put it. Oh yeah, it was in the a whole page in the Hobbytown, or it was Great Plains Christmas catalog, which was a full page, and it had 3 sets, and we sold out of every set. Then, so that was in 1999 or 98, 99, and then 2000 is when Grant told me that they're going to get rid of Scale Electric brand, because they don't think it was a niche that they wanted to be in anymore. And that's when we switched over to Dragon Ball Z. I started to sell a ton of Dragon Ball Z. I mean, millions of dollars with Dragon Ball Z action figures. I had secured a $250,000 order for Dragon Ball Z, but the mass merchant buyer canceled the order because he thought my clients were going to undercut his clients. So my order was cut. I was so furious. I told Grant, I don't understand that. these people aren't going to touch his clients. So then in September of 2001, right after 9/11, Grant Irwin told me that they were going to quit having the specialty division, which is what I was part of, is specialty, and they were only going to sell to mass. And so that's when I decided to open up Professor Tinker's workshop in the mall, and I went to people about getting money, and I'll tell that story later. But then Grant Irwin called me about a day later and said, "Hey, listen, we're gonna keep the division. Would you like to continue working for us?" Now, I wish you told me that earlier. I already signed the note for this Pro Tinker, and I should have done both. I should have said yes to Grant and then had the store as a separate store. But Irwin Toy went out of business the following year anyways, in 2002, because the investment bankers that bought it ran it out of business within a year. 1 year. They did want me to go to Toy Fair in 2002, February 2002, because they didn't have a salesman and they knew how good I was. So they paid me $3,000 to do a 4-day show. I got $4,000 for 3 days of work, and that was in 2001 or 2002. Kimberly went with me on that show. She was 16 at the time, and I remember we were going down the elevator, somebody thought that she was my girlfriend, and she was kind of uncomfortable. Said, "Why, Dad? I can't believe people think that I'm your girlfriend." I said, "Well, Kimberly, you're very pretty," and so she helped us at the show the whole time. Grant was there, and that's how Grant got to know Kimberly. And when Kimberly died, Grant drove all the way from Toronto to come to her funeral, which I was very grateful for, that he came to Kimberly's funeral. I liked Grant. We worked very well together. He did say one thing. He wished that he could have cloned me, so that he could put me in different parts of the country, because he thought I was such a good salesman. Because I went to him, and this was in 1999, I went to him and said, "Grant, I need to get $50,000 a year. I'm going to have to go, because I can go and be a manager at a farm and fleet for $40,000, $45,000. They're looking for managers." And so he said, I remember I can't remember what day, I was in my office, and I told him, he said, "Well, let me get back with you." And he called me back, because he had to go talk to his cousin, which he didn't like, called George Irwin. Because George Irwin didn't like me either, because I was always outspoken. And I was always talking about girder and panel. And I don't know if I've ever told this story, but back in I think it was 2000 is when this happened, that George Irwin was having an affair with one of the buyers. They were having sex. And somebody at the company didn't like it, and they sent all the emails that those two had been talking, or all the emails that they'd been corresponding between, they sent it to everybody in the company. Well, I didn't realize how popular I was. They had a lot of emails that I was involved in, that they were talking about me. One of them was, "Yeah, that Brian Young, he never shuts up about girder and panel. I wish that he would just shut up about girder and panel. He's really annoying." So Grant called me and said, "Brian, guess what?" I go, "What?" "Boy, you're you've been in a lot of these emails. I go, what emails? He said that George Irwin and this buyer, you know the buyer. I said, yeah, I know her. She's pretty attractive. I go, well, they're having and they were passing emails to each other, and you were in a couple of the emails that George was sending to her, saying that, oh, this guy, Brian, he keeps bothering me about girder and panel, blah, 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 blah. I go, you gotta be kidding. I really bothered him that much? Yeah, I guess so. And so about a week later, George Irwin calls me, and he goes, Brian, I just want to let you know that you might have been hearing some rumors about how you were in some of my emails. And I said, listen, George, don't worry about it. You know, we talk. I'm just passionate. And I said this to him. I said, George, I'm passionate about toys. That's all I'm passionate about, okay? I don't care what your opinion, you know, and I appreciate you apologizing, but, you know, it's not really necessary. You've been really good to me. Irwin Toy, I'm enjoying working for Irwin Toy. It's a lot of fun, and I just want to, you know, sell more toys. He said, okay, all right, thank you. And that was that. George Irwin was not the greatest president that Irwin Toy could have had. Let's put it that way. Because within a year after his dad retired, they went out of business. And I think it was because of George Irwin. Brian Irwin was he was the guy that should have taken over. He was another one of the sons. He was Grant's thing. He should have taken over the company, Brian, but I don't think he wanted to. He wanted to retire to Florida. And Brian Irwin should have taken over. Because it was really a nice company. They had a lot of nice product. They sold a lot of nice product. And there's no reason why they should have gone out of business. Really, it's sad. But, so that's how I got into Irwin Toy. And then when I was fired, when I left, I then opened up Young's News or Professor Tinker's workshop, and I had Professor Tinker for 2 years. And then that, because I didn't have enough capital, and I wasn't in a great location, it didn't work very well, and I had to get out of it. Oh my goodness. I had to go into bankruptcy in 2005. Kathy and I had to go into bankruptcy. We didn't lose the house, but we lost everything else. And so then in 2005, I always tell this to people, 2005 was the worst year of my life. Emotionally, spiritually, it was a very depressing year, okay? 2005 was. And at the end of 2005, I kind of got through that. And then 2006, I got a call from Chuck Arrett. Chuck Arrett was the sales manager for SCX in the U.S. and in really all over the world other than Spain. And he was at the Richter show in Rosemont, Illinois. And he walked up to Bob Haynes, which was REH distributor. Bob Haynes was the king of slot cars. He'd been selling slot cars since 1962. He bought out every company that was selling out. He bought them all back in the 1960s and 70s and early 80s. He bought out Tyco. He bought out everybody. Well, Chuck Arrett came up to him and said, hey, he said, hey, Bob, how do we get our sales up in the U.S.? And Bob Haynes looked at him. He goes, well, first of all, you need to find out where Brian Young is. And you need to buy him a vehicle, and you need to put him on the road. He goes, really? He goes, yes. And so about 2 months later, I'm selling cars, which I hated. I not said that I hated selling cars. I just hated the method of selling cars. I thought car dealers were crooks. Not that they're crooks, it's just, unfortunately, the method that the car industry created a dubious way of selling a product to the consumer. I guess that's how I could put it. And now the automobile companies want to put all the dealers out of business. They're forcing them to go EV, which is the death knell to the automobile industry. I'm going to tell you that right now. It is going to kill the automobile industry because they don't know what's hitting them in the way of power. I'm just telling you right now. Okay, so I was selling cars. I remember I normally, when it was slow, I would go out and sit in a brand new car and just sit there, wait for an up. An up is somebody that comes onto the line and wants to buy a car. And you'd go out and talk to them. Oh, I'm just looking. No, you're not. How can I just at least answer your questions? Okay. And I'd have to make sure that they couldn't leave the lot unless I double checked and blah, 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 blah. So anyways, I got a call from Bob Haynes saying, hey, listen, Brian. I go, yes. I was talking to a guy named Chuck Aaron with SCX, and they might be looking for a tech guy and sales for their SCX brand, their new SCX brand. I go, oh, okay. Really? I go, yeah, that's fine. They might be calling you because I told them. He told me what he said about buying a vehicle, blah blah blah. So it's kind of like deja vu all over again. So I get a call from Chuck Aaron. This is 2006. That's right. This is December of 2006. He calls me. He goes, or maybe it's November of 2006. He said, "Hey Brian." I go, "Yeah, Chuck." He goes, "I'd like you to we'd like you to do could you do some tech support for Christmas and blah blah blah." I go, "Yeah, I don't have a problem with that." So I did all the Christmas tech, which they were having some issues with their original digital, which we got all sorted out. And then 2007 in July, Chuck wanted me to go to the Hobbytown USA to see how it would be with him. So I went with him for Hobbytown USA in 2007, and that's when he hired me. And I said, well, you know, because we didn't work very well together at first. And at the end of the show, I go, I don't know if it's going to work very well, but I appreciate it. And I basically said no to him. He said, well, you think about it. And I've always been very upfront with people, blunt. I go, I just thought we didn't click together, you know? And no, he goes, no, don't worry about that. And so he wanted me to come to the Chicago show in the 2007 Chicago show. Went to the 2007 Chicago. And so anyways, he hired me at the Hobbytown convention, and he told me, could you at least go and start selling stuff, and we'll let you rent a car. And so I rent a lot of cars. I rented a lot of cars from Enterprise and drove around Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Chicago, visiting all the hobby stores back in 2007. Because those were 2007 and 2008 were boom years until the collapse, till the SNL crisis, or shady car dealer prices. So I went to the nurses or the Richter show, and he came up to me at the end of the show because I guess the owner was very impressed with me, and he said, Brian, you got your money, $15,000. Go buy yourself a vehicle. I go, really? And we're going to pay you $35,000. So basically 10 years exactly, I'm getting the same amount of money, $35,000 to go sell SCX. Now, how many times in life could that happen? And then immediately within 2 years, I was making $50,000 again. He had bumped my salary up to $50,000. And everybody, this is what I say that I'm kind of blessed. Everybody that hired me for SCX, Chuck, or everybody that I worked with were all fired. I was the last one standing. I and Jordy were the last one standing at SCX. Matter of fact, the last big deal I did was in 2012. We had 250,000, what was it, 250 or 25,000? Yeah, we had, maybe it was 25,000. We had 25,000, yeah, I think it was 25,000. We had 25,000 compact sets, NASCAR compact sets, 25,000 of them. And they wanted, and so I contacted Amazon, which was in control of, or owned at the time, they had owned, what was that one website I used to go to all the time? Oh, Zoot, what's it called? Anyways, I sold all those sets. It was like $250,000, and I made $15,000 cash as a sales or as a bonus on that deal. That was the last deal I did for SCX, and after all that done, we paid all the bills, and there was like $25,000 left in the checking account. And Jordy said, well, you keep 10 and send me 15 and we'll be done. I go, all right, that sounds good to me. And so we shut down Technotoy North America. Technotoy North America, USA. We shut that down. We shut the website down. We shut everything down. And then that's when Aduca bought the new license holder for SCX, and they flew me out to Spain in June of 2012, and I sat down with the owner and the sales manager of Technotoy, and I said to them, don't trust the Arnold family. If you do, you're gonna lose the license. 4 years later, they lost the license. They took it away from them. All the money that Aduca had spent, they lost all that money. It was pretty sad, actually. That's the way it goes. Me and Aduca was fired. I was the Sergio went to the States to pay me my last check of $5,000. I couldn't believe it. I'm not saying I'm a perfect guy, but there's one thing I'm good at. I'm good at sales. Let's put it this way. I've been blessed at sales. Okay? You know, you have to have good product to sell, number one. And I think we have Auto World. Like I was in a conference call yesterday with Auto World and this accounting firm wanting to know, you know, statistics and what's the future of the slot cars. And I was telling them that, you know, Auto World has been so gracious of basically taking my ideas. You know, this is what's so funny about SCX. If they had just taken 20% of my ideas, they'd probably still be in business. Auto World is taking 90% of my ideas, and they're creating products like this Victory 400 set. Hey, let me tell you something. If you don't own a Victory 400 set right now, if you don't buy a Victory 400 set right now and have the and set that set is absolutely awesome. I'm gonna have it set up in Vegas. I'm telling you, that's just an awesome set. Victory 400, baby. That should be everybody on planet should have a slot car. That's all you should buy is for your relatives and your kids is a slot car set. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, baby. You can buy a race like that. So, let me tell you the positives and negatives about dentures. Positive now is they're using this rubber, almost like an O gasket. I don't know if you know what an O gasket is, or I'll just say a gasket. And it kind of like, if you stuck it in there, it kind of sucks into your palate, and it holds the teeth in place. So now I will admit I had to use Polygrip on Thursday because I was doing all these commercials and I was talking a really lot and really fast, and my dentures were falling down, and so I had to get this Polygrip and put it in. And so I went in yesterday to my dentist yesterday, and so they squirt this like compound on the denture, and then they stick it in my mouth real quick so that it forms what the new shape, because my mouth is shrinking. It's really quite amazing. Irwin Toy Story. Irwin Toy Story. Good state, you guys. Kind of tell you how I got into all this and why I'm doing it right now. And how I got into Auto World is the same way I got into all the other companies. Okay, I sold their product. You know, you don't go buy 400 race sets and not sell them. Okay, so let me make that very clear to people. And yes, I'm worried that I'm sitting on 300 sets right now. Okay, but it's no different. What I own right now is no different than I had 4 years ago when I bought all the race sets from Auto World. So, and I'm saying to myself, if I can't sell these sets, then I'm done. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I can, because I did it 3 years ago when I bought 5 sets, a total of 400 sets, and I only have 1 left. Actually, I have 2 left. I have 2 of the Indianapolis, and I have 1 of the Back to the Future sets. I wish I had a bunch more of the Ghostbusters sets. Those went really fast. So, I find it interesting that there are so many repeating situations in my life. And I number one, I thank God for everything that He's done for me, okay? And I've been extremely blessed. I have 5 great kids. I have 4 great adopted kids. David is, I love David, and I love Frankie too. I love them all. I love Mark. I love Missy. Missy is turning out to be very smart and quite. She's finally clicking in schooling, and Mark is extremely intelligent. Frankie is the only one that we're going to have to work on. David is just amazing. Daniel and Ryan and Lincoln and Catherine, those are my existing children. My wife, I can't, she's put away a lot of what I've done, but she is extremely happy, and I cannot be more blessed than what I have been given over the last 63 years. Honestly, there's not a thing in my life that I would take back, you know. Now that's not a bad looking car, that Ford Maverick. But they're just too, I don't know if I told you this, but guys, but when I was selling cars in 2005, I sold a brand new Chevy Silverado 1500 basic truck. Just a basic truck, 2-door, okay, 8-foot bed for $15,999. Do you know how much those same cars? I called Ford. They're $32,000. There's no way that's worth that much. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not. It's impossible. Anyways, I just saw that Maverick. That's kind of a cool looking truck. So we are going into a different phase with my kids and all. My son Daniel, you know, he's trying to get his wife up into Ohio. You know, so you know, we're trying to make our business work, and so that's why I'm going to Nurse's show to try to sell our product to more hobby stores to expand the market. I hope they're open to that. And you know, that's basically what I'm doing. You know, I mean, I'm trying to promote the market and get people to you know, get into slot cars. You know, if you want to do 132nd, if you want to do HO, it's really there's plenty for everything. Okay, we've got the new Knight Rider Back to the Future set coming. Those are already on the website. Those are all ready to ship. They'll be here on Wednesday, along with, we got 6 new Scalextric cars. Those are already up. Really nice ones too. We've got that Camaro coming out. That's a beautiful looking car. And then we got some other Porsche 911s, which are awesome. I can't wait to demo one of those. I'm going to demo one of those. I think I'm even going to buy some more of those because I think they're going to be worth it. So we've been on now for the time that I wanted to do, 2 hours. So here's how it's going to work, I guess. So Tim right now is doing research on the club or the auction cars for next week. And he'll be doing his featurette at 3 o'clock today. So there's going to be another live stream at 3 o'clock today. Now, I'm going to be doing many shorts and videos all next week at the Nurse's show. I'm going to show you some new, whatever, there's new product. So there's going to be a lot of videos next week, a lot of shorts, 1 minute short. They're called 1 minute shorts. So I'm going to be doing about 20 of those. I'd like to do 20. Got to pass this truck. So I'm going to be on for a couple more minutes here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera around so you guys can see the road. So I am going down 70. So normally I go on a northern route through Chicago and then hit 80 and take 80 all the way across to Colorado and then come the 15 down into Las Vegas. Now, according to Google, that is in 1 day, it's 1 hour, or 1 day and 1 hour, or 1 day and 4 hours. But if you would go the southern route, which I'm doing, that means coming down 75 to 70 and taking 70 and then hitting 40, that is a little longer by an hour. And I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute now. So I've been doing the other trip, okay, and I get stuck in Chicago for 4 hours or 3 hours like last year. Well, what's bigger? I'm not going to get stuck in Indianapolis for 3 hours. I guarantee you that. And so I am taking the southern route. Tim and I did the southern route once. We did the southern route once. And that's because I picked him up, and then we realized that we might as well just go to the south route. So that guy is pulling over here. What's going on here? We gotta find out. Can he pull over? No room. These trucks, they stay in there. He could pull over, really. He's not really gaining that much speed on that truck. See the truck on the left, right? So I'm heading west on 70, and I will be coming into Indianapolis in about 41 minutes. We'll be coming into Indianapolis. A lot of truck traffic. A lot of merchandise. I've told this story before, and I guess I'll tell it again. There is something about America that it's almost, because we are, how do I want to put this? It's really hard to screw our economy. And there are people that are trying to screw the economy that would like to bring it down. But I think that America is so hard to do that because of the amount of retail that is, a lot of the amount of commercial enterprise that is in America. It's unbelievable. See, that guy is still stuck in front of me. He won't pull over. Uh-oh, power. I think I'm going to lose the power here, guys. Well, I'm 41 minutes to Indianapolis. See, this is the problem with truck drivers, is they stay in the left lane too much. They need to move over after they've passed. Now this is where I might lose connection, is in this stretch of land. But I'm going to be shutting down here in about 10 minutes anyway, so. Now let's see what he's done here. Yeah, see, he is staying in his lane, okay, and he really shouldn't. He should be moving over. I don't know why he does. Why they do that? Set my speed to 79. Yeah. So the NERSA show, I've been doing NERSA for since 1998. That was the first NERSA show. And we used to do it in the Palace Station, and then we moved over to the Riviera. Boy, there was a big gust of wind. Holy cow. Oh, I'm hungry. Everything is A-OK so far on the car. I got new spark plugs. I got an oil change. Tires rotated. New headlight, new rear light. Everything should be okay on the Mini. So I bought the Mini in 2016. I had a Scion XB, which I really love that. I bought that in 2012 after Aduca took over SCX, and they paid for graphics, but that was it. They didn't pay for the car, so I had to pay for the car, but I traded my HHR in for the XB, so I think I got $7,000 for that. The XB was like $17,000 or $18,000, I think. And so I had the Scion XB from 2012 to 2016. Because by 2016, Aduca had lost the brand. 2017 is when they officially quit selling it. And that's when, 2017 is when Great Plains went out of business. That was a sad story. How Great Plains went out of business, man. And they were a employee-owned business. Isn't that funny how an employee-owned business, they bought too much. They bought too many companies. A lot of stuff. Well, I think it was Great Plains, the demise of Great Plains was really, it started in 2008. So in 2008, I'm going to end with this. So in 2008 is when the financial crisis happened. And there were about 4,000 hobby stores in 2007, about. And over the next 5 years, it shrank to 1,600. The reason I know that is in 2014, I had a list of 4,000 hobby stores that were in business back in 2007. And I physically called. I think I'm going to have to shut down, guys, and my power is about ready to die. So I'm going to end this real quick. I literally physically called or got on the internet and searched every hobby store that was on the list, and I deleted every one that was out of business. And that was from 4,000 to 690. Or I'm sorry, 1,600 and something stores were left after about 4,000, maybe it was 3,800. That's why Horizon or Great Plains went out of business, is because after the financial meltdown in 2008, it took 2 to 3 years for these hobby stores just to pop and pop and pimple. And a lot of the key stores died between 15 and I'd say 8, because a lot of these owners had gotten old and they had just died, and the new management couldn't hack it. So I want to say thank you for everybody that's watching my live stream today. At least we got 21 thumbs up. I appreciate the people that are watching. This is basically just kind of a story of how Brian Young got to where he's at right now and where he's headed. I'm headed to Las Vegas right now to the NERSA show, which I'm going to be doing videos at NERSA and having a lot of fun. So don't forget that at 3 o'clock, Tim will be coming online and doing the featurette on the 5 cars at first week's auction, which I won't be there, but they'll be doing the auction on Thursday. We want to thank everybody. Now, always make sure you like and hit the notification bell button and subscribe so that you'll always get when I'm going to go live, because I might do another one after Tim, maybe from like 6 to 9. Got to wait for that to reconnect. Okay, so we're going to sign off, and don't forget to watch for Tim, and don't forget to share with every one of your slot car friends. Okay, have a nice night. God bless.